all levels of science through AP Biochem and Environmental Science and Physics, as well as Spanish and French, and English Language and Literature, U.S. History, World History. Work a lot with kids around study skills, time management skills, organizational skills, test-taking skills, to help kids deal with test anxiety. I basically coach kids from like as young as 8th grade into like Harvard and Stanford.
Okay.
So I show them how to be amazing students.
Hey, Daniel, do you know Mandarin or Chinese?
I do not. And I don't do art or German or Japanese either. So sorry.
Okay.
Everything except those things. I occasionally get a heckler who asks me about those or something. But I don't do those particular ones. I actually have from time to time had a Chinese tutor, a Mandarin tutor, like available for parents that ask for that, but it just wasn't in demand enough, so I haven't maintained that.
Got it. Okay.
I know my limitations. I'm a Romance language kind of a person, so.
Okay, well, that's a good way to put it. Okay, we had one student that said they're having difficulties getting on. Another one said they're trying to get on now. So I'm not sure why the students are grabbing on. We actually have a student on here. I won't call her out, but the one student that's on here, thank you very much. We have 2 parents and a student. Anita, can you go ahead real quick and tell us just who you are? And I'll introduce you. And this is Daniel. So Anita, I know she's on mute. You're on mute, Anita, just so you know. Okay, there you go. And Daniel,
I just unmuted myself.
Okay, that's right.
Hello.
And Daniel is one of the experts from, he's out of California, and so it's the first time you're able to meet him also too. And this is Anita Myers. Go ahead, Anita, tell us about yourself.
Hi, Daniel. How are you? Good to see you.
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. What time is it over there? Like 8?
It is 7:10.
7:10. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, and I just getting started here.
Nice to see you too. So who am I? I mean, there's a lot of things that I am in terms of the work that I do, but in short, I provide coaching, training, and consulting for personal development, the whole personal development arena. I focus on mind power because that's really where the energy and it kind of runs up there. And I've spent a lot of time providing the consulting and especially the training, because that's going to be one of the most important things that you know, if you're an athlete, that's what you do. You train for the talent that you have, or the talent that you're going to, acquire in your skills whenever you're out there doing what you're doing. If you're not in the athletic world, you're still training yourself. Every year you train yourself to get ready for the next year. So if you think about it, you're in grade school. I told my daughter, you're in 6th grade, you're training in 6th grade to be in 7th grade. You're training in middle school to get into high school. You're training in high school to get into college, and training in college to be into the real world. So I'm a fire starter. I'm someone who likes to spotlight value and help people really reveal their inner power. And so that's really what I like to do. I do it very passionately, and I love what it is I do.
And she also helps out with the essays, and I must congratulate you because one of our students that you helped out recently just received an additional $2,000 with the essay they did.
You're kidding me! That's so exciting! We need to celebrate and have ice cream together. I'm happy to hear that. That's great.
Yeah, he was very, very excited. He just texted me. It was yesterday. Last night he texted me and said he got the additional money.
That's wonderful. And yeah, I guess when it comes to the editing of essays and all, I get to share that.
I've had somebody.
This lady. All right.
This lady.
All right, go ahead. Say it again.
Sorry. I was just going to say that if anyone is curious about the whole editing essay, we can always talk outside of this, but just to kind of give you an overview, when you're writing an essay, there's a lot of little hacks that we can learn about getting that essay to look really, really good, where when you're submitting something, the people that are reading it, they want to get information, they want to get it right, and they want to know that you care about what you're writing and that what you're writing is powerful. So when I receive the essays that you put together, the information that I give you back will be valuable to you. And sometimes if you hit the little writer's block, then if you need to look into it, you can totally talk to Mary, and we'll try to guide you through it so that you can get the kind of results that Mary just explained that someone else got. So I'm really happy about that. So you can have an ice cream with me too.
Yeah, and oh, my computer is crazy. And the other thing, yeah, we've had a couple people actually have texted me the last couple of days. They put their essays in, so I'm pretty excited about it. One thing I wanted to do different tonight is that I asked Alicia to go ahead and kind of give a little bit of what she does. Just a small presentation. I wanted her to do this because of the fact that I was really moved by it when I heard it, and I asked her just to give a few minutes of this, so that way we can kind of understand where she's coming from. And then I'm recording it, Alicia, if you don't mind, so that way we can share it with everyone else that was unable to make it. You're muted.
And we're talking a little bit about what I talked about at the conference, at the last co-op conference, right?
That is correct. That is correct.
About it's only chatter.
Yep.
Okay, good. I found the PowerPoint, so we're good.
Good. And Daniel, if you don't mind, I'm gonna mute you so everyone can hear. Do you mind?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, cool. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So I recently gave this talk about it's only chatter, and this is my voice. So when I talk about chatter, I'm talking about what's happening within the mind. What's that thought that keeps on talking to us on a daily basis? And sometimes it's chatter that belongs from somebody else who said it to us, and we hold it on in our mind and keep on hearing it. Sometimes it's our own thoughts, and then sometimes they're not positive thoughts, they're negative thoughts, but they keep on making their statements said in our mind. And sometimes they're thoughts that are from years before, a long time ago. So, you know, sometimes I say to people, you know, imagine what it was like when you were 10 years old. Can you still hear some of that chatter from that time in your life happening right now? And what happens for a lot of us is that we move forward in our lives no matter what we're going to do, and we hold on to the chatter. And we know that, you know, words, you know, they hurt us and they matter, but we also know that we have an opportunity to have control of our thoughts in our mind and be able to take that and change it. A lot of times, I didn't talk about this at the when we did the conference, but a lot of times when I'm working with people, I talk about the fact is that we imagine ourselves as an onion, and we are the core. And as life goes, we add layers and layers and layers. And those layers are layers of chatter and thoughts and experiences for our life. A lot of times is we just keep on going and moving forward, and we don't really deal with the negative things that happen. My example is a situation of I had a very difficult childhood. I lived in a very abusive house, physically and verbally. And I held on to a lot of that most of my life, until I came to a point where I started examining what was happening in my life, and seeing myself keep on making the wrong decisions. I kept saying, why am I not moving forward? Why can't I get past this? And mainly it was that I didn't take I kept on holding on to the layers of that onion, and I needed to open them up. So in visualization and in hypnosis and different techniques that I use with people, I really help them take those layers off and re-examine them to see if they're truth anymore, if they're things that we've just held on to because we just held on to them, and how can we readjust those to move forward. So sometimes, you know, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and, you know, different things that happened in those days. If your kid got a spanking, you know, that was no big deal. Or they got the ruler at school. So it's a situation of we hold on. I held on to different things like that. I held on to sitting in front of Sister Margaret Rose and her telling me I couldn't spell, you know, and I would be, yeah, I know can't spell because I go home and I don't study, and I'm taking care of my mom and I'm doing all this other stuff. And so I don't ever study. And then I didn't know until later on in my life that I was dyslexic. And so I wasn't able to actually work all that stuff out in my mind. And so I held on to it, and I held on to different thoughts like that. So then as I found out that they were influencing what was happening for me, I had to come to a place of deciding, take them forward or let them go. And I think that that's what happens for all of us. We all have a story, and we all have an opportunity to change our stories. We can hold on to what we want to hold on to. But when we think of the word but, an excuse, we always find a situation of, I'll do it tomorrow, I can't deal with it now, or whatever. But when I was talking the day that I did the thing, I talked about a woman that I met, and I figured you wanted me to share this part of it, Mary. Mm-hmm. And in 1985, I had the opportunity to put together a youth conference for a woman who I had admired for years, and her name was Mother Teresa. And so as I met Mother Teresa, I had the opportunity to stand next to her and talk to her for a few minutes. And she made a comment to me, and it pretty much changed my life. And the comment was based on a poem that she wrote, which is called Do It Anyway. And the poem pretty much says that, you know, people are going to look at you. You're not always going to be perfect. People are not going to accept you. People are not going to like what you're doing. But no matter what, if you want to be the person that you want to be, you have to do it anyway. People might criticize you. People have impact on you, but you have to take ownership of yourself. And so at that point in my life, I began the journey to taking ownership of my life. So Mother Teresa is a very big influence for me, and she has the poem Do It Anyway. If anybody wants that, Mary, I have plenty of copies that I can send to them or give to them. But I do think that it's a situation of whether you're a parent or you're a kid or you're a teacher or whatever you do, or you're a coach. It's a matter of owning your own story so that you can share your story. And that's what I do with Chatter Girls. I share my stories with the girls and help them know that their story is important, but they are the driving force of their story, that they're the ones who own it, and they're the ones who can make the changes. And no matter what chatter that they hear in their mind, they are still have an opportunity to change it and not just continue to listen to it.
That's wonderful. And that's exactly what I wanted you to tell. And I'm glad that I'm recording this. Hope you don't mind.
No, I don't.
Good. I recorded it so that way we can share it out there. And I think it's really important. And while we're talking about that really quick, what's going to happen on these monthly events is that each of the experts will have that 10-15 minutes to go ahead and share their expertise, like Alicia just did. Our next one is December 5th. And we are going to have someone come on, someone that's not an expert, but someone's an expert in social media for teens. They're going to come on here and give us advice on what's the best thing to do and not to do for social media for teens, especially while they're being recruited. And that person will be here December 5th. And then we'll go ahead and, I don't know, if whoever says to me first, Mary, I want to share, that's how we'll go ahead and do it for the experts. But right now, for each of the experts that are on here, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go ahead and I'd ask you guys to share 3 of your expertise. So, Daniel, I just took you off mute. I'll go ahead with you first. Why don't you share?
How's it? The volume just got turned up here, so
wow.
let me do this. I'm going to find a quieter place. Well, why don't you go ahead to Anita, and I'll jump on after.
Sure will. Go ahead, Anita.
Woo.
You're on mute, Anita.
That's like twice today. I think it's just because of the timing. I am so sorry. So,
okay.
So I was really trying to think about if I wanted to really impart something that's super important for people that are on the cusp of joining the college life, because this is going to be your on-ramp to being into the adult world. So what would the 3 things be that you want to take with you? And I'm going to call them commitments, 3 commitments that I think you should really embrace, get yourself involved in.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that where I am in my life and where I was in my college years, I'm seeing it, and you might even see this too, where in certain places it kind of fades away. You don't see it so much like you used to, and you really want to start seeing it. So I'm going to ask you to think about doing this now and get really, really good at it. So by the time you get to where we are in our lives, it's like a no-brainer. It's just a natural thing. And if you already have these 3 commitments going for you, total high five. I will totally respect you completely. And that's going to start with the number 1 thing I'm going to tell you to do is be respectful. Being respectful is not something I see often anymore with a lot of behaviors that are out there. This is not just being respectful to others. This is more so being respectful to yourself. You know, we are the types of folks that are really kind, loving, good people. We've got big hearts, and we just let a lot of people take advantage of that. And building those limitations that protect us is important. Learning to say no is important. Learning to say yes is important. Being able to value who you are and letting people know that you do is important. So it is always good to, I don't know what your life has been like and what you've seen and what people have taught you, but I'm going to tell you, and I'm sure a lot of folks here that are with me are going to agree that, you know, it's one really good thing to be respectful to others. Absolutely. But it is such an incredible thing when you can be respectful to yourself, because once you do that, it'll be easy to respect others. And you're also going to give the definition of what you're expecting from people. So it's a good thing. Number 1, be respectful to yourself and to others. Mm-hmm. Number 2, this is missing in a lot of ages, from the child to as far as you want to go. And that is breathe. We breathe, okay? We're all breathing, but, you know, are we breathing in a shallow way? Are we breathing deeply? Some of us want to just keep on rocking and rolling and going to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And guess what we're not doing? We're not breathing. And I can take a long time explaining to you all the different things that are really good for breathing. I'd like you to go ahead and do yourself a favor and go look it up. What are all the advantages and the benefits that you can get from breathing properly, taking that deep breath, allowing yourself to pause, just enjoying the moment. And I know it's difficult, especially in your teen years. You notice the conversation you have is with a lot of fillers. And what I've noticed is those who are successful out there, they take their time. They think it through. They pause. When they get the right wording, they'll tell you. And it also adds your confidence. And I don't know if you noticed this, but whenever you have resistance, imagine the erosion that takes place if you were to look at streams, rivers, whatnot. When an erosion takes place, when there's a resistance, you know, it's something that it takes away from you. I'm going to put it that way. If you are someone that breathes through your situations, it actually unlocks your mind to think better thoughts, to have better responses. When you're quick and you want to get things done, you say things real fast. Sometimes you want to backtrack and you regret it. And you say, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't say that. You know, this is what I really mean to say. Take your time, pause, breathe. That's number 2. Number 3, this is also another thing that everyone requires help with. And if you can really maximize on this, you will be a very, very successful person. And that's being consistent. Everybody's got all sorts of ideas. Everybody right now in this moment, I'm sure the beginning stages of resolutions for the new year are starting. Everyone's going to start thinking about what is it that I want to have? What are my resolutions for January? And then they begin and they get all excited, all pumped up and hyped. February comes and all of a sudden it starts to dip. And March is pretty much when it fades to black. Mm-hmm. Start all over again. People in the health clubs will tell you that they make a lot of money from this whole experience. But see, you can be smarter than that. If you knew that you need to stay consistent, and if you committed to being consistent, that's where Olympians come. That's where you see the success stay, and you want staying power. That's all you care about. So if you do have something that you're passionate about, be consistent about it. If you want to do better in your grades, be consistent on the things that are required so your grades are doing well. You want to hone in on a certain talent, you know what to do. If you're training, if you're in an athletic situation, you keep going. You keep staying consistent. So those are the three. Be respectful, breathe, pause and breathe, and stay consistent.
Love it. Love it. Thank you very much. That was great info. All right, Daniel, go ahead. I see you're it must be in a hallway, a closet. I'm not sure. Hang on, you're on mute. Okay.
I'm in the witness protection program here in California. So yes, I found a quiet space.
Okay.
So Anita, I love what you were saying. I was actually just smiling because it echoes so much of what I often communicate to kids too. So thank you. And I love the breathe part. I think sometimes people aren't conscious enough to be aware of their state, right? And when they breathe deeply, they get into the moment. So in the same vein, I wanted to kind of build and just say that I think that one of the things that I've noticed that accounts for success, not just in school but in life, is that building on that theme of consistency is being consistent across time. And it has to do with being able to communicate with yourself across time. So in other words, we all have these different aspects of ourselves. We have a past self, we have a present self, we have a future self. And moment to moment, we're all communicating across time with those different aspects of ourselves. So for example, if you write a note in your planner, your past self writes when it was in the present moment, wrote a note in your planner to say something like, do math homework. When the time comes later that night, when you have math homework to do, it's like I've got a little crowd going by here. So it's very festive here. So with your future self, when it arrives at that moment, it sees that note in the schedule at 6 o'clock to do math homework. It goes, oh, cool. Thanks, past self. I appreciate that. It's a little more work for me, but I appreciate you taking care of me, right? And that conversation goes on an ongoing basis between the past and the present and the future self. And it's a way of kind of setting intentions for oneself, and then following through and doing it, realizing that it's kind of this conversation that one has with oneself. The reason I mention that is because what happens for a lot of people, especially teenagers, is we tend to make it about like ourselves and like a parent or somebody else, right? So teenagers will say, oh, I can't do my homework because my mom is being nuts tonight, right? Or because my teacher's mean, or they've got some reason why someone else is responsible for their situation. But if you're responsible for yourself, and it's really about what you do in the past, present, and the future, that's where you get the results. So I was talking with a student recently who was complaining that she had a really mean teacher, a really bad teacher who wasn't teaching the material. And I told her a story about how when I was in college, I took a class from a horrible teacher at a very prestigious university. And so much so that many students just stopped coming to class. The teacher was so bad. And out of 150 students, there were 10 students in the class that got A's, and I was one of them because I owned 100% of my own education in that process. And I made a commitment to the past and to the present and the future to consistently do what I needed to do to get the results. And you really can't use others as an excuse for not getting the results, because ultimately it's on you. So with that in mind, I encourage the kids on this call to really think about how can they make best use of a planner and start to have more of that conversation with themselves rather than relying on being told what to do by their parents or being nagged by their teachers that homework's not getting turned in on time or something like that. Something's not sufficient. Think about who you want to become in the future and write notes to yourself across time so that when you get there, you can see that you're taking care of yourself, all aspects of yourself.
Very cool. I love that. Past, future, and present.
So in other words, master time travel.
Yeah. That's really great. That's really great. Perfect. Well, cool. And that's kind of and each week, that's kind of what you guys think of different things that you can share. I think if we make this more an open forum where you guys can share exactly what you're about, that way people feel comfortable reaching out to you and talking to you more about what you guys can help them develop into these wonderful, thriving students and athletes and thriving adults. Now, we do have some people on the call. If anyone on the call has any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask any questions if you have any. We'll wait here a few minutes, and if you have any questions, feel free. I don't care if it can be anything. And we have cricket. Okay. No questions, anyone out there? Well, it looks not, I don't see anything in chat either. Let me check chat really quick. Nothing in chat either. Okay. Well, not a problem. Thank everyone. I'm going to go ahead and end the call then. I'm going to go ahead and end the call because my 3 tips I share with everyone weekly. They get it all the time. Just so you guys know, once a week, the students and the people that are on this call, I actually spend time with them once a week going over things. The reason why we have this monthly call so they can meet you and not me. But it's for them to meet you guys and know if they need to reach out, who you are and what you're about. Our next call will be December 5th, and it's going to actually be, there'll be a private Facebook group that will be live. So they can ask questions right there. And then people have to be invited into that group. That will be available for you and your people that you have to be invited into that group also. Okay? So just so you guys know, we're going to go ahead and do that. So you can invite your friends into that, etc. also, or your clients or whoever it might be. And your friends, I know there's a student on here. Maybe the student on here wants to go ahead and invite her friends on to get onto the call. They can do that too. It'll be a private area to do that in. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I had, guys. I just want to make sure that we have this on recording. I will share it out to everyone else. And then the next one will be December 5th. Sounds great? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, now we just had.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take care, guys.
Good night.
All right. Good night. Bye-bye.